When I did the plot of the roots of the complex function for you guys in class, I could see that you still had questions about what I was doing. So I thought I would go into this in a little bit more detail to see if I might answer some of your questions. I was looking at the plot of f of z equal to z cubed plus 9. And the question was, where are the roots of this function? So this is a third order polynomial. The highest power here is 3. Z is a complex variable. And I want to know where does this thing equal 0? Now, um, because z is a complex variable, f of z will also be a complex. This function here will have real and imaginary parts. So for example, I could write this as f of z equal to the real part of f of z, whatever that is, plus I times the imaginary part of f of z. Here, let me use a different color for the imaginary part here. I times the imaginary part of f of z. So there's a real part and there's an imaginary part. Now, because this is a complex value, has complex values, I can also compute the magnitude of this. In other words, I can say that the modulus of f of z equals real part squared, whatever this real part is, plus imaginary part squared, and then I do the square root of that. So that would be the modulus of f of z. And it's this modulus right here is what I plotted in that graph that I plotted. So notice that the only way that this modulus will equal 0 is if both of these real and imaginary parts equal 0. So I can say that when the modulus of f of z is equal to 0, this implies that the real part of f of z equals 0, and the imaginary part of f of z is equal to 0. So when I plot this function, when I plot this, and say, when I look at where this thing is equal to 0, it's telling me where real and imaginary parts, where the entire function is equal to 0. In other words, it's telling me where f of z is equal to 0. So that's why I was plotting out the magnitude of the function equal to 0, because I had no simple way of plotting real part and imaginary part on the same axis. But you know, that's exactly what I'm going to try to do here. to give you some idea of how this whole thing works. Now let me go back to my example, and I will do that in the next video. Okay?